Welcome to our show, Leading Your Agency. And I'm very excited about today's episode, which features Yuliia. Yuliia is the CEO of Studio Presto, a web design company offering brand identity, design, marketing, and development services with a human to human approach. So, Yuliia, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Benjamin. I'm so happy to be invited to this podcast, and I would really love to share my experience of rebuilding the company.
Yeah, that's such a great intro. So, rebuilding the company is what we're going to talk about today. And maybe to start with, Yuliia, can you give us a quick, high-level overview of what Studio Presto is, how big you currently are, what clients you serve, etc., etc.?
Yeah, of course. So my husband Stan and me founded company 8 years ago. He was a designer with 25 years of experience, and he was responsible for actually the quality of design we offered, and he was teaching the young designers we have in our company, and I was in charge of sales, management, and communication with clients. Right now, we have 35 people in a team, and we mainly work with United States clients, with Australian clients, and we have a few from Europe as well. And we work mainly with real estate, healthcare niches, but we have experience in other spheres as well. We have these two directions in our work, which are the corporate websites with very sophisticated, interesting design and animation, and the web apps actually, which have this full cycle development from UX until the development itself, until the launch.
Really cool. So 8 years in the making, 35 people based out of Ukraine, correct?
Yes.
So we had a discussion before, and I think your story is really interesting because what happened was that you were working with an external CEO for 6 years.
Yes,
And
correct.
yeah, almost a year ago, I think, or I think it was around that time, around the change of 2022 to 2023. After 6 years, you took over as the CEO. Can you, give us a bit of a short summary of how did this go? What made you make this change, and then also what did the transition feel like? Because it's a very unusual move, right? Typically, what you'll see is people trying to find that CEO that then takes the
And,
company and goes with it. So it's very unusual that one of the owners and founders steps back into the CEO role. So it's really interesting. So can you walk us through what
yeah.
happened there? What led you to this decision?
Yeah, of course. So the first 6 years, we had this constant growth. We actually, with our CEO, Vlad, we doubled our team members, and we increased our revenue in 5 times. And we have this constant growth year after year. But at the end of the previous year, I felt like our company has stumbled, and I understood that to have the possibility to grow further, the company has to go through this transformation, because I do believe that as a human being, every company, every business has the stages of growth and stabilization, the plateau, and actually we were on this change from the plateau stage to the transformation and further growth. And I understood that at that time, my company needed a leader who is ready to go out the comfort zone, who is ready to go dig deeper into every process and rebuild the company from the scratch. Because before that, we made all the decisions in the company very on the intuition, and there was not systematic approach which every business actually needs to be stable and to grow. And I understood that my company needs me as a leader, to put the whole me into the company transformation, and it requires my full energy, my full devotion and loyalty to this process to make real change. That's why I challenged myself and decided to take the role of the CEO. And it was really scary for me because during the whole time I was hiding behind man's back, and we had this top brass in the company, like we made all the decisions together, but actually I was this eminence grace in the company. But when you have three leaders in a company, like two founders and a CEO, we made the decisions together, but no one was responsible for the consequences. And I felt that there is that sort of unsatisfaction and some hidden problems in communication, and people needed some change in our processes and in communication, and like in company in general. So that was my challenge, real challenge. But I decided that if I don't go for it, I'm not sure what future our company will have. So this was really like momentum when I decided to make this change.
Very interesting. So, I mean, if I'm understanding it correctly, so there's a few things here, right? One is, and there's something we see with a lot of agency clients as they go through different growth phases. There's typically a moment where you come to the point that says, "What brought you here won't bring you further," right? So there's that things
Yes.
stop working at a
Yeah.
certain point of growth, right? So there's a very nice rule I personally like really much with this, which is the rule of threes and tens. The theory is that at every multiple of 3 and 10, things stop working. So at 3 employees, at 10 employees, at 30 employees, at 100 employees. And I found this to be very true. That there are always these thresholds where you then have to rethink how you structure
Mm-hmm.
work, how you organize. And I think the other thing that comes that is part of what you said is, and I really like that, it has to do with giving yourself fully to what you're building,
Yes.
not
Yeah.
hiding behind. And I mean, I personally can say I'm guilty of this. Have been guilty of this I've founded 3 companies as well, and this is something that happens. And if you say I want to grow further and be really successful, it has something to do with complete ownership, with bringing in your full self, with everything that
Yeah.
scares you and could go wrong and the risk of failure. So it's very interesting. But again, I find it amazing to take that step after 6 years. It requires a lot of courage and the willingness to really risk something and change the status quo. It's really cool. Now, in our first call, we met a few months ago already. You mentioned that you did 4 things since you've taken over the company that really have transformed the way you operate and how well things are going. And I want to walk through these 4 things. So the first thing that you mentioned after you took over as the CEO, you said you were bringing in experts and at the same time involve the team to really create a clear understanding of strategy and what strategy execution will look like. So can you explain a bit
Yeah.
what you did there and how it went?
So this expert helped us to collect all the problems we had in the company, and outline every member's vision and desire for the company change. And actually, we built this strategy, which was divided into 3 main steps or main spheres. Achieving which we would solve the majority of problems we had in our processes, and actually achieve our main goal in revenue, in clients we wanted to have, and in our actually skills. So these were the first step. We planned our future, and we divided it into the months, like divided the big things we are to do into the smaller one, and appointed the responsible person for every step we had to make. And we gather it every month to track whether we are on the plan or we had passed something, or there were even changes in the strategy. So to keep in tracing every change was really important, and everyone was involved. Everyone knew that in a month I will ask for the results, and for the I tracked this progress actually. And like, and what most important was for me that people understood that it's not just words, it's actions, because I was also responsible for some work to be done in the company as a CEO, and I was also answering these questions of what was done the previous month and what I plan to do the next months. And it was really important for people to understand that I'm totally involved as well as a leader. And what we also made after the strategic session was our development of our skills. So I took the best course in Ukraine for CEOs to fill in the gaps in my knowledge, and to build the company more strategically and structurally. And it helped me to have this clear vision of how do I want to achieve that or this goal. And also we developed the individual development plans for every team member, and we were tracing the results. And actually everyone understood where he is to go in his career development. And having this clear vision was also very important for our team members as well as for me. So this
Yeah.
was the second step. The third one was cleaning up our processes. Actually, before that, we had the processes done more on intuition, and there were no standards in the company. Everyone was working on his own retrospective, but having all the processes written down and implementing these standards for the main processes we have for our clients was really important. And it solved a lot of problems, because on this point we resolved majority of communication problems. We implemented the RESI metrics, which apportioned everyone's responsibility, so that every team member knew where his work starts and where his work ends, actually, which helped us to resolve many communication difficulties and problems which occurred before between two departments, for example. And the last but not the least was communicating the vision and constantly discussing our steps, because if a leader does something and he doesn't explain the reasons to the team, some difficulties in communication may appear, and people just don't understand where you go, where you are as a company are going. So we met every month and discussed on the monthly basis what was done, what we plan for the future, and more important, I was explaining why we do this or that, because we really I had to do these not very pleasant things in the company, as firing the people who were not given the value to the company. although they were really great people and we loved them as our team members, but still at that moment they were not bringing the value to the company, and the whole company as an organism was suffering because of this. And I had to explain why I did this or those steps. Another thing was very unpleasant for me because, you know, everyone wants to be loved and everyone wants to give bonuses and to give compliments, but no one wants to be this badass guy who says not very pleasant things and who make the discipline in the company. I had to do this, and actually eventually I feel this gratitude from my team that um, for the thing that I was honest with them, and I pointed the things where they had to grow to be in the company for the future. And actually, when you are honest with yourself as a leader, and when you are open and honest with your people, and you are not talking only good things but also the bad ones, it gives it brings this engagement. And to outline the result of those 8-9 months we spent in this transformation process of the company, I can say that right now I have the company with clear processes, smooth processes, which really is great for our clients. We resolved almost the most difficult communication problems we had between the departments. And what most important is that I had these great leaders in every department who are very initiative, who are very loyal, who are very devoted and engaged, because they saw me fully engaged into the company transformation. They saw how many energy I put into everything which is done, and they resonate with me right now. So I feel right now this complete support of the whole team, and I understand that everyone is working for our common growth and for our company goal. So, which is very pleasant for me as a leader to see this result, to feel them on the emotional level. And I'm very thankful to me to go through all these difficult things. I'm very grateful to my people that they believed me as a leader at first, and they didn't leave the company on this not very easy stage of transformation. And now I see that we will have great success and growth in the future. We are ready to it, because beforehand, I don't think that having a great big client we dream about, we couldn't manage and give him a good result actually in quality. But right now, when the company works and as an complete organism, as one common thing, we are working together on the same goal, which really makes the change.
Yeah, I mean, so first of all, such a fantastic story, and I have a ton of follow-up questions. But I think what the last thing that you mentioned is really, really important, which also, you know, many agencies that we speak to, if you drill down a bit, a major thing that oftentimes prevents them from growing is their confidence to be able to deliver, right? So going after that big juicy client, landing that big account, getting that big project, you have to be really, really confident in your team, in your processes, that you actually can deliver the result. And if you have doubts in the back of your head that you can't, it's very hard to chase big clients, big accounts with the, you know, necessary level of determination to get them. So
Yes,
really, I think
yes.
getting operations and the team aligned is such a boost for also sales in the end, right? And revenue, because all of a sudden you
Definitely.
can go full force after these, new industries, new types of clients, new and big projects. So yeah, I can subscribe to that 100%. Now I have a few questions. When you first designed that strategy with the external expert, can you explain a bit? What was the time horizon that you took to set strategic goals? Was it like 1 year, 5 year? How long in the future did you plan?
Actually, as we live in Ukraine, it's really difficult to plan for more than
I
one
trust
year,
that.
a year ahead. So we had planned for 1 year, and it was divided into the goal for sales, the goal for processes themselves, because they really were not that good at that moment, and the personal growth of every team member. So there were three main spheres we understood we need a real change in.
Yeah, that's okay. So 1 year, I mean, and then if I understand right, you broke that down into 12 months and tried to pre-plan what has happened to get from where you are today to where you want to be in 12 months, and broke that
Yeah,
down in that way, and
yeah,
then continuously followed up on these things. And then also, I mean, such a simple thing to do. It's not easy to see through, but it's very simple to follow up on these things every month, which that is actually what we typically find. That is what drives change. It's not setting a strategy, it's not creating a
yeah,
roadmap,
yeah. But
it's
following the
following up.
strategy, following doing your job every day on the day-to-day basis. But actually, I'm a controller as a person. I like to control. That's why it was really easy for me to have these meetings and to ask everyone, what have you done before? So it was not that difficult, but I agree with you that this is what really makes change, because beforehand we also had these yearly plans, but we made the roadmap of what we want to achieve and we forgot about that. And at the end of the year, we opened the map with our goals, and oh, successfully or luckily, we achieved 70% of what was planned. Oh, how great we are! But right now, I understand that we have all the resources, and if we have the success, when we have the success, it's better to say it is not something unexpected. It is based on our actions, on our strategy, and our plan. And in this case, the growth can be not something which is based on fortune or something, but you can really predict your company growth, because I couldn't do this beforehand. Like the prediction was something unreal. Oh, let's have this sum in revenue in the year, and we haven't achieved it. Okay, but we at least achieved this for 70%. Not bad. Right now, I achieve the revenue from the point of view of numbers, resources, and people needed to achieve it. Like
Yeah.
more adult approach, I can say.
Yeah, and it's a more controlled approach, right? The closer you keep to where you're at with your goals and the actions that are necessary to take, and if they have or have not been completed, the more predictable things become, right? And you're not subject to, luck. I mean,
Yeah,
there's always luck
yeah.
involved, but there's luck comes to those who work hard, right? So I think keeping close track of these things is very critical. Another thing I find really interesting, it was one of the three spheres you mentioned, and also step two of what you did is really upskilling and training and offering learning to the agency team and particularly to the leadership team. So if you had to pinpoint one or two things where you think, okay, that is the best upskilling that you can give to, future leaders in your agency or to existing, for example, operation leaders, creative leaders, any type of leadership team that you have in your agency, because I know that many agency owners struggle with building up management resources, and really
Mhm.
getting them to a point where they're dependable and where you can rely on them, and where they, and then that's the best thing that can happen to you, where then all of a sudden they are engaged and drive improvements themselves. So if you look at what you did there, what do you think is the most, or the two most best types of training, of personal development, of upskilling that you could provide or offer to your agency leadership?
The first thing I want to outline is that I was lucky enough to have the right people on the right positions. And it was actually, I owe this to our success. The second thing was that I trusted them, and they really felt this. That I think that they are the best people to have this or that decisions in their department. I trusted them, and they, having this trust from me, delivered the best results. They were so devoted, they were so responsible that they changed the things in their department so tremendously that I personally couldn't do it because I was not this expert. For example, I am not a designer, I am not a developer, and I can't change the department from the top. It has to be done from the inside, and they really did a great job in that. They hadn't any leadership programs during this time. They just were focused on processes in their departments and for the education of their team members. But I think that in the future, we will definitely have some sort of team leadership programs for them to grow them as leaders further, because they also came across these difficult things of managing people, managing their emotional states, which was not that easy as having the website coded, for example. You deal with your own emotions, and you have to, as a leader, to manage the emotions of your people as well, which is not that easy. So my people, my leaders, as well as me, came through this personal growth as leaders, and this is very powerful for the company in general, I think.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, it's really, personal growth and ownership is really what can drive a company to new heights, and I think it's really a make or break for the growth of the organization, especially as you reach a certain size, oftentimes around 30 people, where you can't improve stuff top down anymore. You just don't have the
Yes.
knowledge. You're not in depth enough in the operational processes to be able to do that. And we typically find, if we work with agencies, for example, and start mapping processes and describing them, that oftentimes there's quite a surprise on how the work is actually being done, because
Yes,
this
yes.
evolves over time, right? So the way an owner-led agency does the work at a stage of 10 or 12 employees is different than it does that at 30 employees. So you have to
Correct.
trust your experts to develop that further. One
Yes.
last question before we have to wrap this episode up, and I'd love you to come back because there's so much more to discuss. But you mentioned that you took time to deliberately really, write down your processes, get very clear on who's doing what. You mentioned the RACI metrics, which is a tool I really love. For those of you who don't know that, it's basically mapping all of the roles that you have in your company against all of the processes and defining for each combination, how is this role involved in the process, right? It's such a powerful exercise to get clear on how you do the work, where one's responsibility ends and another person's responsibility starts, really to make sure there are no gaps and no overlaps in your responsibility. Such a great tool. But what I'm interested in, you mentioned the good, value of having process documented to get clear on what's going on and to resolve operational bottlenecks, to improve communication. Now that you have that process documentation, are people still actively using that? Are they actively developing that further? How is that? Because oftentimes we find that the exercise is very valuable, but then there is a risk that the process documentation then dies alone and
Yeah,
and
yeah,
quiet
yeah.
death, right? So
I
how
knew
what
you
is
asked
yeah, what is your
this
take on that? Because
question.
it's very interesting to me to learn about that.
Yeah, this is the moment where discipline takes place. And for majority of our people, having these standards written was very, very um, pleasant, I can say, because they wanted their work to be clear and their responsibilities as well. But we had the management team who were who actually were supposed to manage the other people to have everything done properly, but the resistance from them was the greatest, because they have, like, from the point of view of power, they have had the most of the power in the company, and they didn't want to go out of the comfort zone, because like they were used to do the things the way they got used to actually, and to make this change was the most difficult for them. That's why we had, like, at first I decided to go into the processes of every department during a month or two, to fix everything there, to see these difficulties from inside. And once the work is done in one department, I move to another one. So during this 9 months, I actually was involved in every department processes to help to see the situation actually from the bottom. But taking into account this not willingness to have something new, people always resist to even good changes which are in their life, talking alone the something which made some stress for them. They were resistant heavily, but I took away all my emotions, and I just put the fines for them for not doing the proper job. And it was not very easy for me as a person to give these fines for the very small things not done. But I understood that if I want to make the change and to have the standards be implemented, I really need to be very disciplined myself as a leader. And I had to punish people who are not willing to follow. And
Yeah.
actually, this is what made change. There has to be a person who is in control and who is ready to say, oh, you didn't do this thing. If you do it once more, you would get a fine. So that's actually what we done, and that what we needed, and we had not done before. That's why
Yeah.
all the good things I wanted to be done in the company were not implemented, because no one wanted to be in control and to be this bad punishing guy, you know.
Yeah, no, I get that. So I mean, it's really, when I understand right, it's really about using the full set of you know, tools that you have, with, you know, giving a clear path, incentivizing positive behavior, making everything to support that and make that easier, and at the same time making undesired behavior very unpleasant, and then being disciplined about doing that. So
Yes,
I think there's a lot of
yes.
follow-up discussion that we should have about this. Unfortunately, we don't have the time today, so you have to come back, Yuliia. Thank you so much for these insights. If you you know, an agency owner at, let's say, a size range between 20 employees, feeling that they're approaching a threshold of where they can't grow further because the organization systems, processes, tools are holding them back, what would be your advice in 3 or 4 sentences for them to tackle that?
Yeah, take the leadership. This is just start from yourself, because you can't change the inner world, the outer world actually, if you don't start from yourself, actually. So you are the first person to go through the transformation, and then people will follow. This is the first thing I would actually advise.
I love that.
The second thing is trust and believe in your people, because you can't do anything alone. It's like common thing, common advice, but actually you can't achieve a lot alone when you have people who are not ready to go with you. And to have this support from your team is something I really experienced the first time. And you can't succeed, have success alone. You need other people to join you in creating something great for you and your company's future. And the third thing is you have to do the bad things in terms of not pleasant one. You have to fire unresponsible or not valuable people in the team. You have to make them be disciplined. You have to be honest when the things are not going the way you wanted or you planned. You have to be honest with yourself, and you have to be honest with your people. I
Great
think
closing
that,
advice. I think these three things alone can make all the difference, right?
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Very, very nice. Yulia, I learned a lot today. I must say, I would love to have you back at a point to deepen that discussion and see how things are going for Studio Presto. Yeah, if anybody of you wants to get in touch with Yulia, we'll obviously have her linked in this recording here on LinkedIn, and we'll also add a link to a profile on all the podcast platforms so people can get in touch if they have follow-up questions. Yulia, thank you so much for sharing all these insights today. I wish you all the best for the growth of Studio Presto, and of course, given the current stage of things in Ukraine, all the best for everything outside of work as well.
Thank
Thank you so much.
you.
Stay safe and have
And thank
a
you,
lovely.
Benjamin, for this possibility for me to share my experience. I hope that my advice helps someone to grow their business and to boost their agency. Thank you a
Perfect.
lot. This was awesome experience for me as well.
My pleasure, Yulia. Thank you, and goodbye to
Thank
everyone.
you. Bye bye.